Welcome to Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping. In each show, we share the latest about regulations and things you need to know, plus upcoming conferences and fests, along with interviews with the movers and shakers in this fabulous vape space. Are you looking to get into this ever-expanding marketplace? Do you want to master this industry? Listen up as Norm Bauer, the Vape Mentor, shares it all. And here's your host, Norm Bauer.
Hello and happy 2016. Welcome to show number 67 and our first one of the brand new year. If you're like me, you're probably asking yourself, where the heck did the time go? And this I will guarantee you. You will be asking yourself that same question every single year from now on. As the clock and the calendar changes, so did the vape space change in the almost 3 years since I've been involved. I will put my neck out and I'm going to make a prediction. Are you ready? Here we go. The changes this year in 2016, they're probably going to be greater than all the changes over the last 3 years combined. With the new regs around the corner, and by the way, we still don't know what they're going to reveal, it's going to be a cleansing year. What does that mean? We're going to see lots of shops closing and many e-liquid companies going away, guaranteed. Darwinism will show that the strong will indeed survive, and they're going to make a boatload of money. The industry demand, though volatile, still remains strong. The show today, as well as the next one, we're going to cover what happened in Washington, D.C. I don't know the exact number of hearings that they held, but there were dozens. Azim Chaderi, who accompanied me and one of our VapeU instructors and one of the most esteemed vaping experts and legal minds in the world, he was there for 5 of them before me, and I'm sure he attended many of them after me. So, for a moment, I want to speak to those of you that are in the vape industry as well as those looking to get in. If you have a retail shop, you should be more or less okay, but you should definitely pare down your revenue numbers significantly. Between negative PR and propaganda, it's possible that the number of new converts will be slowing. Some vapors are actually going back to tobacco, which is a real shame. If you're an e-liquid manufacturer, your days may unfortunately be numbered. If you want to know how to adapt to this new world, please let me know. I've been through industry upheavals before, many more times than I care to admit. 3 real estate recessions and several in the mortgage industry prepare you for the next ones. This is just one of the few times that age is, in fact, a plus. If you're thinking about getting into the vape space in either the brick and mortar or e-liquid, I would like to speak with you. There are many of opportunities, but you must plan ahead, which is what we've been doing here at VapeMentors for almost 3 years. So let's move on to our interview. We're going to be talking with 5 pawns. And here's some of the things that you're going to learn over the next few minutes. The OMB, they did and they have been listening. The industry has sure changed since the first interview we did with 5 pawns back in September 2014. These hearings were all about financial impact and economic impact. The majority of the marketplace would not be able to adapt to these new regs, and you're going to hear why in just a few minutes. Tens of thousands of jobs could be lost if things go forward as proposed, as you hear Rodney and Rob from 5 Pawns discuss with me. And you know what? The problem is that this is a game that we can't play to win because we don't know the rules. Until we know the rules, we're still going to be in limbo. You may know the name 5 Pawns since they've been around for several years and have carved out a niche in the e-liquid market. They're pricey but known for high quality, and they have a lab that should pass FDA scrutiny. I've been there several times. They also got some negative press recently when they were named in a lawsuit as having dangerous ingredients in their products. I spoke with the principals of the company, and it seems they kind of pissed off the wrong person and got sued. The ingredient question was really a smokescreen and a way to get back at 5 Pawns. I'm going to leave it to that, but listen up and learn in this fascinating interview with Rodney Jerabek and Rob Fitzgerald from 5 Pawns. Welcome back to Vape Radio. This is Norm Bauer, your voice of vaping, and it's no surprise that we are continuing to explore what is going on with the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, and the regulations that they're now reviewing that came down from the FDA. I was just recently in D.C., and while I was there, I found some other friends that were also back there, and I'm sitting in a room right now with Rodney and Rob from 5 Pawns, who were in Washington, D.C. just a few days ago. So I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Rodney. So, Rodney, welcome to Vape Radio.
Thanks, Norm. Always good to have you around and nice to talk to you. And first, thanks for being down there on behalf of the industry and having your voice heard.
My pleasure. My pleasure. This is actually the second time we've had Rodney on the radio show. We had them on in September of 2014, which is when I first met them. And if we look back over the last 15 months, would you say this industry has changed in 15 months, Rod?
Dramatically, yes.
Not always for the good.
No, there's a lot of drama that goes with the growth, but the most important thing I think is that we have people adopting a lifestyle change, and the more people that we can get using our products, it's great to see the growth in that.
So let's talk about why you went. And I know what the answer is. It's pretty obvious why you went, but I think the question is that do you feel that you went and were actually heard? Do you feel that your testimony or whatever it is you shared and anything you can share would certainly be welcome as far as what you told OMB and how they reacted to it?
Yeah, I think that first I'll say that they were great and that we had made the trip to DC to present to them. They were open, they were welcoming. I've been involved with an FDA meeting in the past that I walked into really thinking that people were going to have their arms crossed and nodding their heads like, no, 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 no. But it's really not the case. These people are open to learning about our industry and wanting to explore all aspects of it. And I felt like they were great. It was a little bit of a bummer in that we didn't have a one-on-one meeting. And I wished we had had that, because I think that we probably had 30 people in our conference room and everybody trying to tell their story. It's tough not to get long-winded when you're trying to talk about something that we're all so passionate about. And people getting long-winded made some people have to rush through their presentation, and some people probably felt like they didn't get the time that they would have received on a one-on-one meeting. And I feel like that also didn't allow a lot of time for questions coming from the OMB. There was a lot of note-taking. There was a lot of listening. So I think our voices were heard, but I didn't feel like there was as much Q&A at the end of the session as I would have hoped.
So I'm going to throw the ball here to Rob Fitzgerald, because Rob, you're the CFO
Yes, sir.
of Five Pond. So you're the guy who controls and watches the money. And interestingly enough, that's what the OMB was looking for. When I went in, I basically said, I'm not going to be talking about whether vaping is or is not better, whether nicotine is or is not addicting. I was talking about the business of vaping. So you as a CFO, without obviously revealing anything proprietary, what is your take as a company as far as if the FDA regs go through as planned? How damaging is that to you?
First off, my two partners are very much involved in the finances as well. They're probably on top of it just as much, if not more, than I am.
So the CFO is more of a formality.
No, it's not formality, but we're all comprised, and we keep each other abreast of everything that's happening.
But hey, I'm not an economics major like Rob is.
So
then I'll toss the ball back to you.
Yeah, there you go. So, I think we all know it's drastic. If the regulations go through as we saw the proposed bill was written, it's not achievable for 99.9% of the marketplace as the industry as we see it today. It's just too cumbersome. We're talking about if we don't change the grandfather date, as that's kind of how we see it as today based on the proposed. We currently have 6 flavors and 5 SKUs per flavor. So we're at 30 SKUs, and you start adding that up, and they state that it's roughly anywhere from 3.3 million and up per SKU. We're looking at substantial, if you go off those numbers, is 180 to 200 million dollars just to potentially get our product approved. So I don't believe that the way the rule is written today doesn't have the small to mid-sized business in mind at all, and it really is unfortunately providing the marketplace to the big guys on the street with the big tobaccos and the guys that have more money, more revenue than some small countries.
Yes.
So it's kind of handed it over, which is unfortunate, because the reality is this the smaller guys are really what have built this industry.
Yeah, very true. I mean, I've always said that the vaping industry is very, very generous to vapepreneurs or entrepreneurs who get started in the vaping industry. And I remember from when I interviewed you, Rodney, a year and a half ago, I mean, you started like a lot of other people. You know, you come with the desire of culinary. You have a great taste as far as food and wine and everything, and you developed your own flavors. And from what I remember, you never even told your wife or told your father for quite some time that you were actually starting an e-liquid company. And that was, what year was that and what month was that approximately?
I mean, the development started in 2012, in the very beginning of 2012, developing our first 5 flavors. And then it was really not until 6 to 8 months later that we really got the band together known as 5 Ponds and really started making a push in our backyard first and then opening it up to the rest of the United States and international.
Well, you know, you're one of, I don't have to tell you how many competitors you have, but when I did my presentation, I put 8,000 as being the number of e-liquid companies. And of course, no one knows for sure. And I put down that the average e-liquid company employs 4 to 5 people, which you employ multiple times over that. So potentially speaking, if these regs go through as planned, as Rob said, they will not damage, but actually could potentially eliminate an industry that right now is $3.5 billion that is helping to save hundreds of thousands of lives and create healthier environments for that many more people. So what did you get out of it? What was your sense when you walked out of there, aside from the fact that you wished that you had a one-on-one? Did you feel that they listened and they're going to take some of this information that you and others share and actually go back to the FDA and say, maybe you should go back and review some of these things because they just don't make sense fiscally?
Yeah, I mean, we watched them take copious notes, and they had pages upon pages upon pages of notes. They really seemed to take note of things when things were about money. And again, there were a lot of instances in there where we came right out in the beginning and said, we're not going to try to tear at the heartstrings. We're not going to talk about the thousands of testimonials or the millions of people that have converted to vapor products. We're going to make this about money. And I think that was refreshing to them. Let's talk about the fiscal impact. Let's talk about the financial ramifications. And as soon as we started bringing up things that pertain to that in particular, that's really when they started taking notes. The heartstrings and the stories and everybody, I mean, that was a lot of that information was information that probably needed to be heard by the FDA a year ago. That group that was assembled in that room cared about nothing but fiscal impact.
Which is good, because obviously there's a lot of emotional angles that you can take on this conversation. And it just so happens that you were in there with, say, roughly 25 to 30 other people, including, you said that there was some doctors in there and some psychiatrists in there. And I'm going to try to interview some of those, but without going into any detail. Can you share a little bit about what they were doing in front of the OMB? Because they weren't necessarily talking about the fiscal impact of their businesses, were they?
Not as much. More of that it was great, first of all. I mean, it added an interesting dynamic, I think, to listening to their stories. But again, I think some of that stuff that was so powerful, it was neat to have all of that power in one room. Shop owners, doctors, manufacturers, distributors. But again, some of that stuff probably fell on deaf ears, which was a bummer because I would have loved to have been in that same meeting with FDA and having that kind of energy a year ago when they were putting the deeming regs together. And that wasn't the case necessarily. I think it absolutely helped that they were there. I think that, again, to have all of those different people in one room with nothing but passion about trying to allow this industry to survive was powerful.
So, Rob, I'm going to ask you the closing question. So here we are coming up to the end of 2015. What, if anything, are you going to do differently over the next however many months until the other shoe falls? Is there anything that you can do? Is there anything you should do? And is there anything that you would advise anyone who's listening that they could or should do in the meantime?
That is
other than pray.
Yeah, no, that is that's the $1 million question. I think, from our standpoint, we're throwing money into the coffers to prepare for some extensive costs should there be a more of achievable pathway for us. let's, for example, if they change the grandfather date and we still have to go through some form of approval process, there's still going to be cost per SKU or an overall cost substantially less than what the 3.3 million per SKU is going to be. So I think for us, our primary objective is trying to keep it close to the vest, put money away for when hopefully the FDA the final rule comes and it is an achievable pathway for us to be a part of this marketplace. And we have every expectation that that's going to be the case. And our plan is that we're going to be here for the long haul. So the difficulty, it's hard to play a game when you don't know the rules.
That's a really good point.
So until we know kind of what we're up against, it's spec at this point. It's all speculation, and it's really hard to game theory something when you're kind of shooting from the hip, so to speak. So in a way, I think regulation, and I think all of us, and even all the people that we met with, everyone agrees that some form of regulation is necessary. I don't think anybody's out there saying we don't need to be regulated. Now, we don't necessarily need to be regulated as a tobacco product.
Definitely
not. We don't believe that. But does there need to be an umpire at some point? Yeah, as long as we're not killing the fly with a sledgehammer type scenario. But does an umpire make the game, control the game? Absolutely. And I think that the end result, the consumer receives better products, more consistency, and there is some benefit to certainly some regulations. We're just cautious at how stringent they're going to be.
Well, I agree with you. I think most people who are professionals in the industry, which is certainly the people here in this room, agree that we do want some guidelines because there has been a lot of bad things being done out there by amateurs, and we're very lucky that no one has been severely injured or damaged by this particular industry, but we're going to play it by ear. So on behalf of Vape Radio, Rob Fitzgerald and Rodney Jarabek, thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you much.
Thank you, Norm.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't go away. We're going to come back because we've got several more interviews to bring to you in just one moment. So there you have it from yet one more perspective. Understand that those that went back to Washington to testify, they all took time out of their busy schedules and they covered all these costs on their own. The OMB, they had all manner of companies of all shapes and sizes come in, and we're going to have a few more interviews scheduled for the next show. And also, we're going to introduce you to some new VapeMentors offerings, including the 2016 Vaping Industry Survival Guide. Make no mistake, as I said at the top of the show, things are going to be different. They're going to be more different this year than we've seen in many, many, many years in the past. So that's it for show number 67. We have so much to cover. Thanks for joining us here on Vape Radio, and thanks for all of you who make Vape Radio the largest radio vaping show in the world. Until next time.